of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is Ginger. Aye.
Thank you, Ginger.
Aye.
Peter, aye.
Dave Bossy.
Next time,
Dave
do a
Bossy,
roll call.
aye. Thank you. Approval of minutes, draft minutes of October 6, 2020. Has everybody reviewed them? And does anybody have any revisions they'd like to see made? If not, I'll take a motion for approval of the minutes for October 6, 2020.
So moved.
Ginger
This is
is
Ginger.
Dave Bossy, second.
Peter Brace.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Dave Bossy, aye.
Thank you.
Ginger votes aye.
Thank you. Andy Lowell, aye. Nothing under chairman's report tonight except for, I'll move right on to Marine Department report. Sheila seemed as though she was going to be able to make it. She's pulling buoys today. I spoke with her via text about what we've been speaking about with the liveaboards. And I reminded her we needed to talk about Airbnb. And she really, and I mentioned to her how it seems as that we've had participation with some liveaboards, and they seem to, in a way, keep an eye on each other, and even made some positive comments about the Airbnb and how they operate. And she really was not interested in anybody's opinion of Airbnb. She has her own opinion and does want to talk to us about it. She sounded quite adamant with that. And she also mentioned a couple of the liveaboards just becoming legal this year. And at 4:20, she said she cannot Zoom today. She's still out working, and she requested that she set up an in-person COVID safe meeting with me by the end of this week or next, which I immediately obliged to do so at her convenience. So, it is her busy season. I'll give her that much, but, and we have till, at some point it sounds like she wants to address the Airbnb portion of this. I also mentioned, I questioned how what type of registration form she has, how much information she's gathering from the liveaboards beforehand. And that all of us were, for the most part, concerned about not having an abandoned boat issue as we have in the past. So any comments from the board? Peter, Mr. Brace?
I'm concerned about her just showing up for a meeting and then none of the liveaboards there. I think it needs to be a planned situation where we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that she's going to be there.
Yeah.
So that all those guys can show up, because I know that they mean well by showing up at the meeting every time we put this on the agenda.
Right.
Some of those guys are there.
Yeah.
And they, it's disheartening that every single meeting Sheila doesn't show up.
Mhm.
And she has an excuse, and I understand, she's busy, she's pulling buoys, she's doing this, she's doing that. But, our natural resources department people are there. In fact, I don't know if you got the email, but Tara won't be at the meeting. She sent me an email with a report that she wants me to read, that she wrote out, a 2-page report. Now, if Sheila can't make the meeting, I don't know. I'm happy that she sent a text, but I think she should write a report like she originally agreed to how many years ago.
Yeah.
I just think it's rude.
Well, Peter, I agree. And I feel, in a way, I've possibly broken the ice that I get to have a sit down with her, and I intend to speak with her about either sending somebody else in to represent the Marine Department, or at least have a written report. And she said she didn't have much to report except for removing buoys and waiting on permits for town pier activity. But there's a whole summer of activity that hasn't been reported on, and I will remind her of that. And so
And
at
Mr.
this point tonight, it's the best we can do. Mr. Brace, again.
She shouldn't make you her proxy to us, because with respect, Mr. Chairman, what she says is going on out there, reporting it to you and you reporting it to us, some gets lost in translation. It's so much, and no disrespect, but it's so much better when she is there in person.
Mm.
And you should just tell her the discussion that you have with her shouldn't be letting her off the hook to report to you everything that's going on. You should say, save all that for when you're going to come to our meeting, and work out how she is going to attend the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman?
Ginger, please.
I agree with Peter Brace, and I think it also, because you set the agenda, you can certainly get a list of things from Sheila that she would like included. But I think to have any kind of substantive discussion really doesn't give the kind of transparency that the public meeting is supposed to have. I think that it would be helpful that she and the liveaboards be able to talk to each other at the meeting through us or through you, and to do it sort of privately is not really a good thing.
I agree. I got a feeling there's some things she wanted to explain to me, but Peter, I agree 100%. I do not want to be a proxy, and and thank you for using that term, and because that may help in my discussion with her. She's not at this meeting. We've got 2 more weeks till the next meeting. And you suggested yourself I get down to her office and see her face to face. I had a feeling she may be concerned about, COVID exposure, but she's the one who has suggested a COVID safe meeting together. So we'll have to take it from there, unless you suggest otherwise, Peter.
Well, I don't know. I mean, through you, Mr. Chairman, at what point do we go see her superiors?
Right.
We've got, after this meeting, we have 4 more meetings for the year. And we were talking about liveaboards in December or November of last year, and she was talking about how we should be tackling this in February, and she's looking forward to working this out. And here we are a year later, and it'd be great if we could have something solved by next spring, so that there's something new in, everything is revised by the time everybody comes back and goes to liveaboard again. And I know Sheila pretty well, and I know that she carries a pretty big chip on her shoulder about how she's doing a hell of a job for the town, which she is doing. And we all agree that, but she just, I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way that she.
Well, and it does me as well. I feel like, how have we, possibly alienated her in any way? And I'm a sensitive person, so I kind of take it personally, so I'm hoping, that we're not operating in a manner that offends her, and I don't think that we are. Why don't we'll give it this one more meeting and see, where it goes from there, Mr. Bossy.
I was just going to say that exactly. I think you've got the face-to-face, which was something last time, as Peter suggested. I thought it was a good idea to do a face-to-face. It's scheduled. She's not here. I think we don't have a choice but to let it go 2 weeks. But I think certainly after your face-to-face, we'll get a feeling for what's going on.
Mhm.
I don't think it's anything going on. I don't, but I just think it's time scheduling and not necessarily good at it. That's all.
Mhm.
But anyway, I think that's the next step, is for you to meet in person with her. I think it's great.
Okay. All
Just-
right. Well,
and then-
I didn't get it done 2 weeks ago. Now she's actually proposed it. So it is a baby step that I'm more than willing to take. And I will push for it within the next 2 weeks to have that done. And I did mention last week that, or at our last meeting, that I would not be here for the next meeting. My plans have changed. So chances are pretty good that I will be here for the next meeting. So if not, I will certainly let you know ahead of time.
Okay.
Anything else from Marine Department? Okay, so natural resources, Jeff was kind enough to call. He's got some things going on. Sounds like he has an emergency a violation to go look at out at Sackatcher Pond area. He's also, anyhow, he had legitimate reasons for not being here, and Tara did as well. Tara printed out a wonderful report. Peter, you got that as well.
Yep, I got it.
Dave did not get that. I'm wondering if can Dave's email be injected into the loop so he gets these as well if this happens in the future, any types of emails like this from Tara, Dave can see it ahead of time as well.
Yeah, I'll
All right.
make sure that.
I'll read her report.
Thank you.
All right. Dear Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board, I will not be able to call in tonight due to a family conflict from 5 to 6. I hope that you will accept this written report in lieu of a verbal report, and I'm happy to answer any questions about this report via email at triley@nantucket-ma.gov on Wednesday, October 21st. We have had a busy fall so far, finishing up our field work and starting to analyze the data for our summer projects. Surveys. We have some estimates of the overall classifications of bay scallops from the 2020 survey from 40 sites. Of the total population sampled, scallop seed made up 70.9%, classic scallops 21.3%, year one nubs 6.5%, year two nubs 1.2%. This survey indicated a 10% increase in seed population when compared to the survey from 2019. The classics were about the same in 2019 and 20 surveys. The year one and two nub percentages were about 12% lower in 2020 than recorded in 2019. We're currently working up this data and looking at correlations between population classification percentages and bushel counts. I will update you as that information becomes available. Strandings. We had a stranding that we identified on October 8th, 2020 in the Wallwinnet area between the Pink House down towards the pier west of that location. It was not accessible by vehicle due to Topper's Pier still being there. We utilized natural resources staff and arrived via boat with push rakes and totes. we were able to save and relocate about 180 bushels. We are currently working on relocating seed off of Fulling Mill and the UMass Field Station that is in danger of stranding during the next wind event. The seed is smaller in size, around 30 to 40 millimeter, so we're using modified dredges with a smaller mesh. This is a much slower process because the dredges clog up quicker. Yesterday, we moved 20 bushels into Third Bend, and we will continue to move seed as long as the weather permits. Spat bags. This year, we collected over 75,000 spat and are currently analyzing the data and comparing to previous years. The largest collection site was in the middle of the head of the harbor, which makes sense due to circulation patterns. We will be focusing our efforts in that area next season to capture that recruitment, especially because of the deep water and lack of habitat in the middle of the head, and relocating the small spat to other areas with optimal habitat. Shellfish from hatchery. This year, we released around 115 million bay scallop larvae into Nantucket and Mattocket harbors. We just stocked 5 million quahogs in Nantucket Harbor along the shorelines that are accessible to the public via the shore. Main areas include Poccuma Point area, Quays, and Monomoy. Shimo Bend Oyster Reef. Leah Cabral just finished her last seine survey and is working up the data. Staff is continuing to sample the fecal coliforms in addition to the DMF sampling schedule. We are hoping to continue the conversation with the DMF about how to reopen that area so that we can continue our work on the oyster reef. Shell collecting is continuing and is being stored in the at the DPW until we can continue work in Shimo or have a new project area permitted. Other projects and or collaborations. Leah Cabral is working with the Conservation Foundation on a project in Medui Creek at Pulpus Harbor, utilizing spat on shell for shoreline stabilization. On another shoreline stabilization project for the roadway along Sacajah Pond, engineering plans are in place and the permitting for subtidal reef balls and a living shoreline will start this winter. The project is not expected to officially start until 2022. Water quality update. Sacajah was open 10/7 and closed on 10/8 due to low water levels. Hummock was open 10/9 and closed on 10/13. Water quality samples were taken before opening and 1 week after closing. We are waiting on data. Water quality sampling has finished for the season and will restart in spring with the pond openings. HAB monitoring program collaborated with the Nantucket Conservation Foundation, the Nantucket Land Council, and the Nantucket Land Bank, extended into November as blooms have been persistent with the continued warm weather. Monitoring is typically performed 1 time a week, June through September. For more information, check out the Town of Nantucket website. Please let me know if you have any questions about this update, and I'm happy to help. Respectfully submitted, Tara Riley. There's a good example of a report.
Yep.
That was a great report.
Yes. And next time you see Tara, thank her for that. The next time you hear from her or send her a little email or a text, I'll be doing that after the meeting. Any comments
Yep.
on that report, Mr. Brace?
I attended the beginning of the opening of Hummock Pond. So I sat on the east side of where they were going to open the pond, and then I could sit in the dune there and look down past the pond over Ram Pasture and over to Clark Cove. And I saw that the excavator truck had parked on the west side of Clark Cove, and that the excavator was then, it seemed to be in front of Clark Cove, and he was digging. and he was digging down by the water, and I used my binoculars, and he was digging a trench. And so I used the iPhone to take a telephoto picture, and then I sent it to Jeff and said, "Are you guys opening Clark Cove instead?" And he responded with a text message that said no in capital letters with an exclamation point. And he said he would be contacting the operator. So then within minutes, the guy stopped digging, and then spent the next 20 minutes filling in the trench, and then eventually came down the beach. And then I was then on the other side of the beach, and then I went and saw him, and he had been confused by where Hummock Pond was. And so then he had to wait there for another 30 minutes until JC showed up. JC somehow got access to Ram Pasture in his truck, and he parked the truck where that little opening is, and then walked and talked to the guy. And then he was instructing on the guy on how to do the opening. And, I purposely did not post any photos of the guy digging at Clark Cove, and I didn't say anything to anybody. But Jeff later told me that the contract for opening the ponds comes up again in the springtime. And this guy, if he was the same operator, he did the digging at Sakacha, and Sakacha didn't even stay open for 24 hours. And I know the water was low, but I don't know. I just think they need to get someone else. When it was Toscana doing it, that guy, John Coffin, he was great. It was like a couple of years ago that Hummock stayed open for 3 weeks. And I don't think we've had Sakacha stay open more than a couple of days for several years. And it's the one that needs to stay open the longest. So, and I know you can't go out or I know the town just can't go out and just pick who they want. It has to be the best bid. But this guy didn't know what he was doing, and it was disheartening, I guess. I mean, it did stay open for 5 days, I guess. And you could see that it had lowered a lot. But anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
Well, Peter, make a note of that, to question Jeff about how many people submitted bids to do the job. He reported to us a year ago saying Toscana refused to do it again.
They were too busy. Yeah.
And he was actually having trouble finding a contractor to do it. He got Stephen Waterhouse to go out and do it last year. I spoke with Steve personally, and he said he probably wasn't going to do it again because of the lengthy walk for the excavator. He was getting on at the end of Cisco Road, and he actually had to build a ramp to get down the bluff.
Yeah.
And then walk the machine all the way down to Hummock Pond from there is quite a jaunt for a machine to do that. And they're really not made to travel that far on their own track. But I'm always amazed when I hear stories about Junie Bartlett opening the ponds with a horse and a scoop dragged by the horse. And then later on, his son, Phil Bartlett, whom we all know, used to do it with a Jeep and that same scoop that they used behind the horse. They just replaced the horse with a Jeep. And having this big machine out there, I don't feel is necessary. It can be done with a much smaller machine. But certainly having somebody experienced operating makes a world of difference.
Mr. Chairman.
Ginger?
Yes, I have pictures that my father took of Sakacha being opened by guys with shovels as a WPA project in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, enough
I
guys.
have,
Enough guys with shovels in a row can also get it done in depending upon how high the pond is. I mean, when it's as low as what I can imagine how low it was, I have a pond that is affected by Hummock Pond, and the pond on my property is just about bone dry, and it hasn't been dry in about 15 years. And when it is in the spring, it was overfull, and with the drought and the opening of Hummock Pond, it's dried right up, and certainly, how do you gather together a group of guys to do it by shovel? Certainly something to talk to Jeff about. And Jeff's presence there before an operator begins, or JC's presence, or whomever Jeff, sends out that's qualified to oversee it, needs to be there before the project begins.
I agree with that, Mr. Chairman. The thing is, all the, as my dad would say, all the futzing around cost them an hour and a half of the low tide, when the excavator should have been on the beach digging an hour before low tide. Mm-hmm. And, to have the edge. And, I just finally gave up. I'm like, I don't have 3 hours to sit here. I was hoping I was going to show up there and see him halfway through and it being open. And that wasn't the case. So, it was also odd to me that the Sacagawea opening, he put the spoils, the sand, on the south side of the trench, when in past they've always put the spoils on the north side, because the current along that shoreline, that longshore current, is south to north, and if it's gonna help out, I would think that you wouldn't want a pile of sand in the way for it to erode away. You'd want the pile on the other side. Mm. And the same thing with Hummock. He put the sand on the south side, on the west side instead of the east side. I don't know. Just, to me, it would just. You're right.
Sounds like it turned into a debacle in a way.
Well, you're right. Jeff should have been there.
Boy, well,
Mr. Chairman?
Ginger?
Yeah, the hummock was fairly high, though, and I go birding there periodically, and there really wasn't a shoreline along the edge until the pond was opened. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it had already closed or not. I don't remember exactly what day I was there. Maybe Saturday evening. It was dead calm, a lovely evening, and the pond was just full of tons of little fish of some sort. I don't know whether they were, the little sardine-sized alewives or what they were, but the birds were just going crazy. They were just feeding all over the place, and the fish were jumping all over the place. I was up further. I was about halfway up by the horse paddock there.
Okay.
I also wanted to make a comment about the scallop pile. It's not really. It's not strictly about the harbor, but the scallop pile where they have it by the old dump entrance means that that's where the gulls are, and there's usually a few mashed ones that don't get out of the road in time, and they make a mess on the cars when the birds flush. We used to put the scallop pile at the jetties. Is that not an option anymore?
Hasn't been for, 3, 4, 5 years now, Ginger. They moved it out of town. I'm not sure if residents.
Well, I know, but yeah, but out by the dump, it's too close to the road, mm-hmm. and I think
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I think we might allow them to move them over because now they have one of, right, when you go into the dump now, you can collect, you can shells if you want to from one of the bins that are there where they have the compost,
Mhm.
the fill. We don't have mulch because the mulcher hasn't been here for 6 months, but next to where the mulch does go, they've been putting shells in there periodically and people come take them. So I'm wondering if they just have it out there for convenience so they don't have to take a truck downtown, fill it up, and then bring it out. They could just take the front.
Well, maybe that's a different pile, because where people dump the shells with the guts on them isn't by those compost bins.
Right, no, it's
It's
the
a little further
one
down.
Right, it's the next one down. I'm not sure
Yeah.
when they age them before they move them to the other pile.
Well, that's just it. They're putting them at that old entrance to the landfill so that the seagulls will clean the guts out of them
Right.
before they put them over to the bin to be given away to the public. I felt myself, Ginger, I've seen dead gulls there before, and when a considerable amount of shells are dumped there, you also get a stream of salt water crossing the Matticat Road, which is one of my personal pet peeves, not to drive through salt water if I don't have to. And even a little splash of it kind of bothers me. Maybe it's just an OCD thing, but well, there's something to make a note of as far as finding a better location to dump them. I'm sure the scallopers would prefer a more convenient location than to have to drive that far to dump them. I got a feeling we probably won't see Jetty's Beach as that spot again. But I always wondered why the upper parking lot wouldn't be better. I always felt that it was kind of unsightly right there where the bicycle racks are in the summertime. Although a neat spot can be kept, especially now that they have a bunch of cement barriers down there that can be used as like a backstop for the machine to push up against to clean them up. But I don't know, Ginger.
Well, when the pile moved, we had several terrible years for scalloping, so they didn't need the whole parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
In the days when there were a lot more scallops and a lot of boats, they needed a bigger space for them.
Mm-hmm.
So just an observation.
Yeah. Well, keep it in mind, and and when I was on a high horse about another launching ramp in town, I did a lot of cruising around looking for a place where it could possibly be, and of course talked to Dave Franzuto about it, and he'd done the same thing decades earlier. But keep your thinking cap on and think of a more convenient and better suited place. If that gate were in further, there's a lot more asphalt inside that gate, and because that used to be our recycling center, and
I remember.
so they have a lot of blacktopped area inside there. If it could just be pushed in a little further, that could help. But anyhow, anything else? Natural resources.
On that topic, the reason they moved the pile was because people complained about all the gulls and the smell.
Yes.
And I'm just guessing here, but now that we have more of our seasonal residents spending more time here because of COVID,
Mhm.
I'm betting that there are more people in those neighborhoods.
My thoughts exactly.
And if you push that pile up by the tennis courts,
Yeah.
which would be closer to the cliff and wherever people are, and I don't know, you might get people.
It'd certainly be some pushback. With the prevailing northwest winds, that odor would float from there up into the cliff, down into the Hulbert Avenue area, Brant Point area. So that's, why I felt like we'll probably never see it at jetties again. So, but, if getting that gate moved back at that old landfill entrance could possibly be a start.
Not a bad idea.
Anything else? Any comment from the public on Marine Department or Natural Resources, Valerie?
Mr. Chairman, it's just a request. I have to leave about 10 after to take care of some research, changing specimens in different solutions. So I was hoping that my presentation could be done before 6:10.
Okay, do you have something to add on the Bay Scallop Nub rule?
Yeah.
Is that what you'd like to
Yes.
speak about?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna move into old business right now, and I'll poll board members. Do you mind if I change our agenda and bring Bay Scallop Nub rule to the top of our list, Mr. Bossy?
No,
Okay,
Go.
Mr. Brace,
I don't mind.
Ginger?
Go right ahead.
Okay, we'll open up new business with the Bay Scallop Nub rule, proposed revisions, continued discussion. Board members, anything new to add to this? We will be continuing this for weeks to come. And Valerie, we welcome your continued progress in reporting on this and new information. If I don't hear anything from the 3 board members with us, we'll hear from you next.
Hey,
Mr.
thank you.
Bossy, anything?
Should I go?
No, just a second.
Okay.
Mr. Brace, anything on the nub rule?
No.
Mr. Bossy,
no.
Ms. Andrews?
Nope.
Okay, we'll hear from you, Valerie.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I had examined the ovaries of 15 first-year nubs, that was on August 24th. And since then, I've examined another 33 first-year nubs as part of the mid-September harbor survey. And by the end of August, about half of the nubs had begun to spawn already. This is all done microscopically. 40% were ripe, but not yet spawning, and less than 10% were not even mature yet. And they all average close to 50 millimeters in size, which is shell height, which is about 1.75 inches. By mid-September, I found that almost 72% of the nubs were spawning, and 30% of those 72% were fully spawned. And then there were 28% of the nubs that were still ripe and not having yet spawned at all. And their shell height on the average was no different from what it had been in August. And I didn't think that was so strange because they're putting all their energy into reproducing as long as they're doing that, and they're not putting their energy into growing yet. Now I'm sure they are because they're done reproducing. So in addition, I didn't find any correlation between their shell height and the spawning status. In other words, a little nub is just as liable to spawn as a big nub. And so that's an interesting find, and I'd like to pursue that more because the whole 2008 2.5-inch rule was based on the fact that bigger nubs have spawned already and the little ones haven't.
Huh.
That may not be true, but anyway, I'd like to go on a little bit. I wasn't able to obtain water temperatures during the mid-September survey. They were taken, I just don't have that information, but I'm pretty confident that they were still above the spawning threshold, which is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And I don't know when exactly the water temperatures went below that. I think that happened later in September, but it is possible that those 28% of the nubs who hadn't gotten ripe yet by mid-September never had a chance to spawn. And then the 7% of them that I found that were immature in August may also have not been able to spawn before the water temperatures got too low. And so that's significant too, I think. the results I got this summer were very, very much the same as what I got in 2019, with about 72% of the nubs spawning by mid-September. But if I go back 10 years to the work I did for my dissertation, I found that only 49% of the first year nubs could spawn. So I started wondering what's going on here. And I have a feeling it has something to do with the warmer ocean temperatures that have been happening because of global warming. So in conclusion, I'd like to say it's obvious to me that we have to protect at least some of the nubs, because not all of them are able to spawn, even though they're doing better than they were before with the warmer temperatures. And if they're not able to spawn, that means they haven't added to the population. And a fishery that takes animals before they've even added to the population is not going to work. It's not sustainable. So the 2.5-inch rule does protect the nubs to some extent. And even though I don't think it's perfect, I think that it should not be rescinded. So are there any questions?
Board members, any response to Ms. Hall?
I just,
Thank,
Mr. Bossy?
I'd just like to say thank you for the work, Valerie. It's really interesting stuff. Appreciate that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank
yeah,
you.
I want to say sort of the same thing. Thanks for continuing to attend our meetings and keep the issue alive and keep us informed. It's extremely valuable, Val.
this is Ginger. I totally agree. Thank you very much. It's fascinating.
Yes, I agree as well. Thank you very much, Valerie. And this, will stay alive until the dust settles, I guess. And with you being the only attendant here so far, and of course, we still have commercial season to start here. I think according to Tara's report, it sounds like the number of nubs are fewer this year, which hopefully is a positive thing as far as harvesting goes, taking away some of the difficulty in identification. So I hope that nubs work in maybe a 5 or 7 year cycle, and so that we don't have to deal with them being, an identification problem or a harvesting problem every year. It makes it easier for our shellfish constable, and just overall easier on our conscience, those of us who want to see the spawnings happen. So we will continue this if there isn't any more comment. Do I hear any more comment from the board? So we will continue this, and Valerie, stay tuned.
Okay, I'll be back next time if you're still discussing.
Okay, any information you want to share, you will be given that opportunity. So
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back to the top of the list for the draft opposition letter on the proposed pier at 46 Schimmel Pond Road. Thank you for getting that out, Peter. I think you've covered all bases, maybe even twice on a couple of issues. First and foremost, I'd like all board members' names to be at the end of the letter, if you
Okay.
would. I think it's only fair that I like to come out of the tunnel as a team, like the New England Patriots. So we're all in this together. We're all on it unanimously. And thank you for adding in safety as well. It's not, the environment is certainly a huge portion of this, but safety is a concern also of ours and should be of theirs also. And this is going to come up at what meeting? Do you know, Mr. Brace, the date and time?
Yeah, the deadline for me getting the letter in is this Friday, the 23rd, and then the meeting will be on the 29th at 4 p.m. October 29th.
Okay. Great.
And I'm gonna refine that letter, and I need to find out from hopefully Cormac the years that we renewed the moratorium on docks, wharves, and piers for private residences. I think it's important that we have that chronology in there.
And can you clarify that they do not expire,
Well,
or do they?
the moratoriums did expire. I think they were in, I think they're either in 3 or 5 year. I can't remember whether they were extended, but we voted on it in the 2000 town meeting and the 2005. So I got to find out what the one was before 2000 to get that correct. But they did expire. They did have sunset dates, and which is why the voters, prompted, I believe, by the land council, finally adopted a permanent prohibition.
Okay, so there is a permanent prohibition in place already.
Right. So it's known as island perimeter restrictions. And I believe it was an amendment to that bylaw, but I gotta get that correct. But yeah, it's permanent. And if you read the notice of intent, he's not asking for a waiver. Even though it's a prohibited use, he's just going ahead and applying for it, even though he's not allowed to do it. So I guess maybe I got to get a hold of Jeff and find out how it is that if something is prohibited, how you can apply to do it. So
I wonder if he has some type of strategy behind that.
don't know.
Well, he received a permit from the state for the use of the ground. That was buried in his application. I'm not sure how that came about to begin with, but so it appears he's got permission to use the ground that's, I guess, owned by the state or by, I'm not sure who owns our harbor bottom. But he doesn't have the permission, right? So then he still needs to get approval to violate a town law and a zoning law, because it's definitely a zoning law also. And it may be that it's only a zoning law. I'm not sure.
Well, it's a zoning law for land use, but it's a Conservation Commission regulation
Okay.
for building in a resource area, which was the whole thing, was to protect the resource area, to protect the inhabitants, the habitat, the water quality, all of that. Which is why we went, the voters went to such lengths to make sure it wouldn't happen again.
Mr. Chairman?
Ginger, please.
Okay, yeah, I noticed one typo, and I believe you wanted to say the eelgrass off Pimney's Point, not of Pimney's Point,
Okay.
possibly.
Yep.
And I also I noticed there was a Science News article about eelgrass restoration in where was it? I can't remember now. Delaware maybe, or I don't know exactly where it was, but they had been doing a very large eelgrass restoration project, and after 20 years they had improved in a lot of areas, and it was also they felt eelgrass was important to protecting and for coastal resiliency, protecting against erosion. So the NOI references, a bulkhead and there's some revetment there, or I've forgotten now exactly how it goes, but clearly more eelgrass would be the more eelgrass the better. And it looked to me like from the aerials, it looked like there was some even a little closer to shore than the areas they'd indicated. So I don't know if you want to work that in, but that was just another reason not to put the pier in, and that it's it's not like you can just I guess I would say that the mitigation would be inadequate for those goals anyway.
Peter or Dave or Ginger or Valerie, have any of you ever waded out in that particular area where this is proposed?
I'd push right there.
I'm just curious how deep it gets.
It's it kind of drops off, I think.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a channel
I haven't
there.
been there lately.
There's that channel that comes from the, in front of Monomoy and sort of runs up. It's a sort of a,
It seemed it would be wise if, the Concom goes out and does field inspections. Obviously, board members from Conservation Commission have physically gone out there. At least when I served there 20 years ago, that's what we did, and did it as a group, and it was always very. You gain a lot from being on site and having a proposal explained, and also having the administrator there to explain impacts, and it gives you a much better visual. I imagine the commission has already done their field inspections of that, but it would probably be a good idea if we did the same or had some more information on water depth. Does dredging come along with this, or would dredging come along in the future because of coastal erosion and sediment settling into the area? We've already, Jeff has already mentioned that there are mooring handlers who mentioned where they used to set a mooring in 6 feet of water, now it's in 4 feet of water, and just be wise for us to have a better visual of it, if not an on-site visual, to say the least. But I'll try to get out there at some point. Not in the. Miss Hall, please.
Yeah, I just wanted, I walk that beach all the time. It's one of my regular daily walks. And so I know that's that great big house that they built on the hill, right? And those are the people that want the pier. I'm pretty sure that's 46 Shimo. And right now there's a funny little pier that doesn't go up very far, but there isn't that much beach there. There's a lot of erosion that happens along that whole shore. Mm-hmm. I just can't imagine. And plus that if they want to put a great big long pier out there, it's so close to the one that's already there at Low Shimo, the house called Low Shimo. So I just can't see it at all.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Ginger, did you have something to say?
No, it's been a long time since I've been down that way, so I don't have any real current information, but it's just a terrible idea all the way around. So
okay,
I'd be happy to have my name put at the end of it.
Okay,
Thank you, Peter, for putting it together.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks. If there's nothing else on that, Peter, anything else?
No, I'm just gonna
Okay.
take the next, I'm gonna take the next 3 days to polish it up and make it better. And
Good night, Valerie.
I'll send it to everybody. As long as you guys promise to, comment and, I'll send you the final
Oh,
version.
I don't think, I think if we vote, excuse me, Mr. Chairman Ginger, I think if we vote to send it, that we can't really discuss it outside of the public hearing.
Okay. Well, then you guys will have to trust me.
Well,
Well,
you've got a lot there, and polishing it up can only make it better. So we appreciate your time on it, Peter. Certainly. Do we need to vote to send?
I believe we should vote, and that we approve Mr. Brace's continuing to make edits as long as no substantive changes that we haven't discussed are made.
That
I think
sounds
that
like
might cover it.
that sounds like a good motion, Ginger.
I'll second that.
Okay. So the motion's been made and seconded to approve the letter along with reasonable editing and with respect to Mr. Brace. And we have the approval, or we have a motion made and seconded. All in favor? Any discussion on the motion, first of all? If none, all in favor? Mr. Bossy,
Yes,
Mr. Brace,
Aye.
Ms. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Lowell votes aye. It's unanimous. Be sure to use that word in there. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
haven't. Yes, you did, right in the beginning. Voted unanimously and vigorously. Okay. Proposed liverboard regulations, revisions. Anything new board members want to add? Mr. Bossy, you had a copy, I believe, of a registration form from another town that you distributed. Is that correct? All
correct.
right. I have that in my folder. I'm going to be sure to bring that with me when I see Sheila and let her know that that was one of our concerns.
Good.
Anything else?
Something's going on. I don't know. I don't know if my video is working.
Who's that?
It's Ted.
Me too.
Ted. Oh, hi, Ted. How are you, Ted?
I have been fighting with the computer for the last 45 minutes.
Oh, all right. Well, you're not too late yet. We're just getting there. We'll get to you shortly.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Brace or Ms. Andrews on liverboard regulations?
Not yet.
No.
Okay, if nothing, we will continue that to our next meeting. And so we've talked about the draft opposition letter. Peter, you've got here an old business, new notice of intent for proposed 90-foot pier, 46 Schimmel Pond Road. Have we pretty much covered everything?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else there, we'll move forward to the oyster lease permit review. I spoke with Mr. Carlson earlier today. He's not able to make this meeting. He did, stress that the number one goal for Mr. Lambrecht is to get that old gear off the bottom to have it inspected. And Mr. Lambrecht, if there's no comments as of yet from board members, I'm not seeing any hands. Can you give us any type of progress report, Mr. Lambrecht?
Still carrying on with putting a boat back together.
you've made some progress in the past 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah.
All right. All right. Foresee being able to launch?
I'm gonna have to, no matter what.
Yeah.
I have no choice.
All right. And I mean, we're the advisory board. We
Yes.
want to help you, but we also, we have to listen to our staff, being Natural Resources Department in this aspect. And he's gonna work things the way he pleases, or the way he feels seems he's fit. Uh, and with your gear having been on the bottom for 3 years or more, I don't see, where we have much leverage to argue with his request. Um,
Oh, shoot.
you can certainly plead with us, and we'll do our best to buy you some more time. But you're kind of on high alert, Ted. And I'm sorry to have to say that, but
Can you see me right now?
yes,
All right. Somehow I hit some button here and I can't see you guys, but that's
I
fine.
know this is tough.
Yeah. I know. I'm going as fast as hard as I can, and I just can't go any faster.
All right. Okay.
I mean, if I was flogging a dog here, I'd say so, but it ain't the case.
All right. All right. Have you reached out to Jeff?
I tried to contact him last week. I drove over there and he had pulled in, and then before I could walk up to him, JC pulled in. He jumped in the car and ran, so I didn't get to talk to him. But I was right there. I don't know how those guys missed me, but what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I didn't call him. No.
All right.
I've been trying to get somebody to come do some inspection or something if they're that concerned.
Yeah. Well, maybe just, a short reach out to him that you're making progress on the boat, and, whatever you feel comfortable with saying about projecting when you may be able to get in there.
Yeah.
The more you let Jeff know about your progress, the better off you'll be.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to see you having to waste a lot of time chasing them around or something like that. If you email him a progress report. If you text him. Do you have Jeff's number?
I have a phone number. I don't know if it's his cell phone or not, but I have a phone number that I call.
Uh,
I have texted him a number of times, so I do have the text
all right.
somewhere in this mess.
What phone number are you using? Do you have it?
Probably the natural resources one.
All right.
Let me look here in the contacts. Carlson. EFGC. What's the natural resources? Nantucket.
Well, what about JC? Do you have JC's number?
No, I don't, but I'd be more than willing to take it.
Well, I don't know if I'm at liberty to give either one
Yeah,
of them
I
up,
understand.
but I'll reach out to them and tomorrow, and see if they're willing to share that, or what's the best way that they would prefer you keep in contact with them.
So that would be cool. That would be really good.
All right.
Let
Make
me,
a note of that. Meantime, I got a feeling, but I will poll the board. The board most likely, is in a unanimous feeling about you being diligent in hauling this gear up. So, Mr. Bossy, anything to add?
No, I think getting a status and I think keeping Jeff apprised is the best advice you can give, is
Yeah,
to have on top of what's going on and estimated time. Had a great run of weather recently, and
Oh, yeah.
hopefully it continue.
yeah. Mr. Brace?
Yeah, I want to give Ted all the time he needs, but at the same time, I agree the gear needs to come out before new stuff goes in. So, and it sounds like, I just did the minutes the other day, so I had the advantage to look at the meeting again, and I'm seeing two different Teds. I see Ted in the last meeting looking kind of beaten down and under the gun, and now I see him more positive and upbeat, and we've had some good weather. So I don't think that he's going to let himself down or let us down. He just it only makes sense for him to get it all done so he can get back into the water. So we should just be there for him.
All right.
But we should also just crack the whip now and again, I guess. I know he smiled. That's good. That's good.
I understand I understand the process and what needs to be done, and I know it's tenuous to say the least. But like I say, I can only go as fast as I can go, and I'm getting there.
All right. Well, that's really good to hear, Ted. And as you've heard from Mr. Brace, we want to see you succeed, and we also want to support you the best way as we can. As you know, we're simply advisors, and the Natural Resources Department are the enforcers. So you know that, and we'll do our best here. As long as you show progress, we'll try to keep buying you some time. But I think Jeff's got some timing in mind, and keep on trucking, Ted. Ginger?
Yeah, I will for sure. And I think the best thing in the world is to have somebody from that department come down, and then they can see if there's progress or there's not progress. I mean, I've got photos out the kazoo, but I mean, what good does that do if they don't think there's progress going on? I just would like to see somebody come down and say, hey, this is the state I'm in. I mean, and there I go, from there.
All right. Okay. I'll get in touch with Jeff tomorrow.
I will too.
Find a best way for you guys to stay in communication.
Yes, very good.
Ginger Andrews, do you have a comment?
No, I agree. Communication is key, and I don't know if the Natural Resources Department, if they can actually come down, physically and see and listen to the whole story, but sometimes just the right information, and it doesn't have to be a ton of photos. Just give them a little report. If they can't make it down or there's something going on, which obviously there always is, just let them know that you haven't let it fall off the radar, and how you doing.
All right, Ted. Anything else you'd like to add? Otherwise, we can let you go tonight, and we'll pretty much wrap up our meeting here.
Well, there you go. I don't have too much. I just back to hustling it up.
All right. All right. Well, thanks for being here, Ted. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for sharing.
Well, I'm glad that I had the opportunity to meet you all for sure. All righty. I will catch you next go around.
Okay, good. Thank you. I hope it's easier to get online here. I hate to hear you wasting 45 minutes. Ted, you can always here's my cell phone number, Ted.
Yeah.
You want to write it down?
All right, I'll do that. Let her rip.
508 633 1006.
1006.
If you're having problems logging on, shoot me a text and say so. And it's possible, what I'll do is possibly shoot Mr. Brace a text to send you another invite if that's what it may take. It's happened to a lot of us. This getting into Zoom, you end up in a different place, or can't end up getting in there at all for some reason. So we certainly don't want you to have to consume extra time with frustrating technology. So
Yeah, the issue is with the computer this go around. It wasn't with the meeting process or anything else like that. I got that down fairly well.
all right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Ted.
You bet, for sure, and I thank you for sure.
All right.
You
We have
guys
nothing-
enjoy.
We have nothing under new business tonight. Public questions or comments? Not seeing anything. Anybody recap items for next meeting? Anything new? Anybody like to bring up for the next meeting? If not, I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. This is Ginger.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, Mr. Bossy,
Yes.
Mr. Brace, Ms. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Lowell votes in favor of adjournment. That's a unanimous decision. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Have a good
Have a good night.
Thank you, Andy.
All right.
Good
hope to
night.
see you in 2 weeks.
night, Ted.
You bet. You guys have a good one for sure.
Take care, Ted.
Good.
You bet.